Welcome back. You're still tuned in to News and Views with myself, Salailo Makwidiri. We're going to be switching gears now to another important story that's doing the rounds. Um, the global refugee crisis has many faces, but few as tragic and as enduring as that of the Rohingya people. This week, Bangladesh's interim government's head, Muhammad Yunus, unveiled a 7 point proposal at an international conference in Cox's Bazar, home to over 1.3 million Rohingya refugees. The plan calls for sustainable repatriation, international funding, and an end to the violence in Myanmar's Rakhine state, and implementation of international court rulings against genocide. This comes as the world marks the 8th anniversary of the Rohingya exodus, a grim reminder that entire generations, literally, are now growing up in limbo, stateless, and very, very vulnerable. But is this proposal a real pathway to justice, or another intentioned plan destined to gather dust? And to help us unpack this, we're joined now by genocide scholar and activist Dr. Zarni Maung, who has long been a critical voice of Myanmar's crimes against the Rohingya people. Doc, thank you so much for joining us. Good morning. Welcome to Salam Media. Really appreciate you giving us your time. Doc, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear, and I want us to jump right into it. Bangladesh's interim government has put forward this 7 point plan for the Rohingyas repatriation. How significant is this proposal in the broader history of international efforts to resolve this crisis that's currently ongoing?
Well, two things. Number one, Bangladeshi government is currently headed by an internationally respected Bangladeshi academic and the Nobel Peace Laureate, and so should command a lot of attention. In terms of these, before we get into the substance of the 7 point proposal, I would just simply express my gratitude to the Bangladeshi leadership, Dr. Yunus and his deputies and advisors. This is a long overdue concerted effort that needs to have happened. In the past, the previous government of former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina had made some efforts as well. And so, considering that we now in the world, there are several major genocides unfolding, most definitely in Gaza and the West Bank, and also in Sudan. And so the Rohingya genocide, which is not finished. That's why, Bangladesh has received an upward of about 150,000 Rohingyas from across Myanmar as recent as essentially last year, and over that's the number that had crossed into Bangladesh in 1 year, joining the already 1 million Rohingya there. And so I think that this issue is highlighted again by the new Bangladeshi government. That is to be welcome. But in terms of what, how the 7 point proposal and its objectives can be realized, I mean, that's a different issue that needs to be discussed, thoroughly and through critical eyes. It cannot just simply be 7 point wish list that every one of us, above all the Rohingyas, want and deserve, to accomplish.
No, most definitely. I just want to touch on, the feasibility of this plan, and some of the challenges that it might face. Many of the Rohingya people say they fear returning back to Myanmar without citizenship, and safety guarantees, and most importantly justice. Do you see any realistic chance that these conditions will be met to a certain extent?
No, there is absolutely no chance of any of the three you mentioned. One is safe return with some degree of guaranteed protection, right? The 14 out of the 17 townships in Western Myanmar, immediately adjacent to Bangladesh, the Cox's Bazar region, with
Mm,
over 1 million Rohingyas are stuck in the last 8 years, um, have fallen into the hands of a rather Islamophobic, another Buddhist nationalist or ultra nationalist group named Arakan Army. So, so you've got to understand what has happened since the largest exodus of Rohingyas, about 740,000 in August September of 2017. That's 8 years ago. A new um, spearhead of the genocidal destruction of Rohingya people has emerged. It's named Arakan Army. They represent the Western Myanmar's state's majority, named Rakhine. They are also Buddhist, like a Burmese ethnic group. So the Burmese military in central Burma that used to control the entire country is currently engulfed in multi-front armed uprisings by different ethnic groups. And none of the ethnic groups that has risen up, seem to be receptive to the idea of Rohingya as equal and full citizens and indigenous people of Myanmar. That's one thing, right?
mm,
And then, secondly, in terms of citizenship, not even the the umbrella, parallel government named the National Unity Government is prepared to declare that Myanmar has been an apartheid with the Buddhist Myanmar, the majority, at the top of this pyramid society, with the Rohingyas at the bottom, with no protection, no rights. They were full and equal citizens of Myanmar for the first 10, 15 years of the country's independence from Britain in 1948. But they were stripped of the citizenship and protection and civil and other rights when the military entered its, the second decade in the 1970s. And in 1978, the first large wave of Rohingyas were violently expelled from their homes into Bangladesh. Close to 200,000, and then that first wave was followed by ever larger waves of because of the genocidal destruction. And now what we have is Myanmar military, retaining the power to represent the country or the state at the International Court of Justice. Myanmar
mm,
military is as official representative of Myanmar state insofar as the International Court of Justice is concerned, is defending the state from the well-founded and well-documented allegations of genocide by another state, the African state of Gambia at the ICJ. And then meanwhile, Myanmar military has, found some kind of symbiosis with some of the armed, small Rohingya groups operating along the Myanmar and Bangladeshi border, the Rohingyas, and they team up to fight what they consider their common enemy now, which is the Arakan army, and that is in control of a large swathe of the Rakhine state, right?
Mm.
And so I think the the crucial thing to remember is, before we can talk about full citizenship and safety of Rohingya, and also accepting them as Myanmar's one of Myanmar's ethnic groups, native to their own ancestral land next to Bangladesh, we need to look at how to bring the all the fightings in Rakhine State to an end. There are no signs of the fight or the military conflict between the new Islamophobic militia named Arakan Army and the previous genocidal spearhead, Myanmar's national armed forces named Tamadol. So the Rohingyas are caught in this triangular conflict, and they are the weakest, and they have absolutely, no power to reclaim their ancestral land. And so Bangladesh should start looking at some of the hard choices they have to make. And then, one of the proposal points include, wanting association of Southeast Asian nations. 10 member nations are now with the new membership at Timor-Leste, 11, and of which Myanmar has been the black sheep. Dr. Yunus wants ASEAN to play a more central role in resolving this conflict. The problem with looking to ASEAN to play a more critical role is ASEAN has been a major failure. All these years when Rohingyas have been subjected to genocidal destruction by its member state, Myanmar, whether it's, the military junta itself or the joint government between the Burmese military and the Burmese Nobel Prize winner Aung San Suu Kyi as the de facto head of state, right? And so whatever the type of government is in central Myanmar, ASEAN is unprepared or incapable of exerting moral and political leadership, right? ASEAN has not even, determined that Rohingyas have been subjected to genocide. Genocide is not something that only the lawyers and the international judges of the UN courts can determine. By the time these international legal mechanisms have arrived at the conclusion that genocides had taken place and Rohingyas have suffered irreversible damages at the hands of Myanmar military and now at the militia, ethno-racist militia Arakan Army, there will be no Rohingyas left in the country. So by the time the court arrived and the process and deliberated its verdict, it's too late. And so I think the ASEAN has been a failure. And finally, the Burmese or Myanmar society, Christians, Buddhists, and different ethnic groups, we have failed as a society to stand up for the Rohingya. here's the thing, genocides are not just about killings and burning down villages by armed groups, whether militia or the national armed forces. The genocides are joint, the government slash state and society at large crime, like Nazi Germany. By
Mm,
the time that the Nazi regime was able to launch its final solution, like gassing people after transported them to death camps and concentration camps, the German society as a whole overwhelmingly was already supporting and going along with the Nazi state that was doing all the trigger pulling and dropping Zyklone B gas capsules into the gas chamber systems, right? So
mm,
Myanmar society has failed, even after the world condemned Aung San Suu Kyi and the country finds itself before the International Court of Justice in The Hague to look itself in the mirror. The people today, whether they are fighting for human rights for their group or political autonomy for ethnic communities or individual so-called human rights defenders or Burmese Democrats, whether they are non-violent or they are armed, by and large, these pro-democracy, pro-human rights groups do not extend their solidarity or compassion to the Rohingya people. So we are looking at a case where multiple failures uh, um, are staring at the Rohingya who only want to go home. See, that's the
mm,
scenario. So we are looking at the abyss. I mean, much as I laud, Dr. Yunus and his leadership for holding this conference, and then they are planning another, official, high stake or high level meeting at the United Nations when it convenes in next month. And I am afraid that without a proper political power and military threat to bear on both Myanmar military and Arakan army to stop the destruction of the Rohingyas, to stop the forced deportation of Rohingya across onto another sovereign state, Bangladesh. I don't see any prospect of any of the points being realized.
mm, And I think that's the most unfortunate part. Doc, just one last question before I let you go. It's been, a little bit more than 8 years into this crisis. You have entire generations of Rohingya children that are growing up stateless in camps. Um, what does this prolonged displacement mean for the survival of the Rohingya as a people?
Well, out of a little over 1 million Rohingyas, I've been to these camps twice, already. I saw the camp conditions with my own eyes. Um, you've got, close to 400,000 Rohingya youth of different school going age from kindergarten to university and even like postgraduate level students. They want to learn. Bangladesh has failed to provide them any meaningful schooling opportunities, right? So you have a situation where like international NGOs and UNICEF and others come and open like what they call like learning centers for like half of the day, and past that elementary level these students have nowhere else to go. The Bangladesh government, the previous one, was very hostile to young Rohingyas. They're slipping into the proper schools for Bangladeshi children and youth, and they They took these like Rohingya students out of the classrooms. We cannot have, 500,000 youth, sitting idly, learning nothing of substance, and then, 8 years on, you want them to go back, and they do want to go back, and the youth are the future of any society. You need to provide them with opportunities to learn, either skills or like a formal education, like every other children around the world. And then so I think money is also drying up around the world for international, refugee emergency aid or development aid, because everyone is like, every government is poor, particularly the so-called donor governments in the West are pouring money into the defense. The refugees are at the bottom of any type of like government policies anywhere in the world. So we are looking at a situation where the hundreds of thousands of Rohingya youth sitting idly, without any meaningful opportunity to empower themselves. If they are not empowered, who is going to rebuild Rohingya institutions if and when they are able to go home? I think it's short-sighted not to provide at least, like a meaningful schooling opportunities to the Rohingya youth. And then we can talk about, the Rohingya people going home with youth, armed with skills, and the capacity to think, capacity to learn. And so I think that needs to be addressed immediately by the host government. The 1 million Rohingyas are not going anywhere, and so you might as well turn them into productive, members of their own communities, and rather than looking beyond the borders yet. Hello? Hello? Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes,
I
yes.
lost you.
Yes. We have unfortunately run out of time. We really appreciate you giving us the time and for your insights. I think on this very, very important and concerning state of affairs when it comes to the Rohingya people, and this 7-point repatriation plan. I think only time will tell if it will yield the results that it's promising to. And I'm sure we'll be catching up with you in the not so distant future to discuss it even further. Really appreciate it. We're going to leave it here for now.
Yeah, thank you.
There you go. That was Dr. Zarni Maung. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, News and Views continues.